I am going to be talking about the complex journey through the justice system. To start out, it would be the police officers getting dispatched to, let's say, a domestic violence dispute between a married couple. They got noise complaints, so they are heading to the house and they are going to gather information gather information and they are going to make an arrest based on probable cause. The next thing would be you're in the back of the cop car, you're driving to the police station. Don't talk while you're in the police car. You get to the police station, they take you into the room, they talk to you a little bit more, and then they read you your rights and they ask you if you want to speak to an attorney, and you say yes or no. And if you do say that you do want an attorney, they'll say, do you have one, or the state could give you one, and then you make your decision based off of that. And then if you decide to go ahead with a lawyer, I think that's when the conversation ends because they can't talk to you anymore without a lawyer present. And then your lawyer will come in and you guys will be talking about the charges, talking about time maybe you're spending in prison, what the plan is to go ahead with, what you want to, are you saying you're guilty or innocent, plea bargains, and things of that sort. And prosecutors will review evidence and decide whether to make a formal charge, to make a formal charge, and then decide which charges they want to pursue and I guess charge you with. Um, And then the next would be the arraignment when you are presented in front of a judge and a jury, or a jury, yeah, a judge and a jury, and you will basically state your case. The judge will bring out the evidence that they have, talk about the charges that you have been accused of, accused of, and then you will um, be informed of the charges, your rights, and bail, and if you get bail. Um, and the defendant enters a plea deal, which basically is a shorter sentence and a better way, or a better, in my opinion, it's kind of a cop out a little bit, but in the best way because only if your crime isn't like super heinous, you have an advantage to maybe not get as many years in prison or maybe probation, and just like a lighter sentencing, really. That's mainly what it is. And then for the pre-trial, this is the discovery of the plea. Basically, what is the plea and what are they saying that they'll give to you if you decide to take it. Um, and this is where they exchange information, talk about the case, and legal arguments before trial. And then you go to trial, which is the scary part. Um, if there is no plea, you go to trial, or yeah, if there is no plea, you'll go to trial. But if there is a plea, you either take it or you don't. And then if you don't take the trial or the plea, sorry, you go to trial, and then you're back in front of the judge and the jury, and they will determine if you are guilty or innocent. The jury decides that, and then and that's that, and then you get your appeal. And then the defendant may appeal his conviction sentence. You could say, heck no, I'm not doing that. Um, and it will be brought to a higher court to see if there are any legal errors. And for corrections, after sentencing, correctional agencies handle that after you've been convicted of being guilty. You can either go into a rehabilitation center or you go to prisoner jail. And basically, the point of rehabilitation centers are to get you out, like back into the community and back to being a normal citizen, I guess, which I think that was like a big takeaway from like learning about this stuff. It's still a little confusing, but that's kind of like the main thing. Like, nobody wants somebody to commit crimes. Nobody wants someone to like have their lives over, especially if they're younger. Um, which is interesting considering the things that we've been researching about rehabilitation centers and places like that really don't actually do that. Um, and in corrections too, you either get like imprisonment, probation, or parole. However, the trial went, um, and like had said before, majority of cases are resolved through plea deals just because they're quicker, not as much money, and you get a lighter sentencing, really. Like, you could basically just you could go to end up almost going to jail and then get stuck with community service for like 6 months or something like that. So that's kind of nice but if only if it's for like little crimes, nothing crazy. Um, but a case study was, I hope this is valid, was Sean Combs's case, Diddy, Puff, whatever you call him. Um, and actually, I had listened to basically his whole court hearing through a podcast called Rotten Mango, Stephanie Sue. She was actually in the stands or in the courtroom as press, and she kind of explained things that had happened. She was the reason I know what cross examination means, um, which kind of just seems like victim blaming, if I'm being honest with you. Um, and how his kind of case went, how he had was investigated, was arrested, was taken to a holding place, and then to court. And well, we kind of know how that played out now. Um, but yeah, that's kind of the only correlation I thought of just because of I kind of got to see it from start to finish in some way, and how you need tons of evidence and tons of evidence to be approved and processed, and the communications not only between um, the defendants but the opposing team as well, and how something too that's interesting is your team, the people who are like representing you, are really working hard. If they're good at their job and they care enough, they're really working hard. And um, especially if you're representing somebody like Sean Combs and the things that he was accused of. Um, uh, and yeah, I think this one, if I'm being honest, this one was a little bit more tricky for me to understand a little bit because it's just so much terminology and just so many steps, and it is complicated because this like that what I all said, that I probably could have said that in 5 minutes, but like for somebody actually going through it could take years just to get in front of a judge. And the odds may not be in your favor, and you could go back, you could go forward and then go back a step as well. So yes, the journey through the justice system is very complex.